join, because there had to be that point where you said, I'm going to join the military. Sheila.
Well, you first.
Me?
Yeah.
I'll ask the questions. Facilitate. That was all my turn.
Okay, all right. So for me, my mom was standing in the front yard. I still remember. I was, in 12th grade. And she said, "Shimmy, what do you want to do?" And I had looked into going to the Art Institute in Atlanta to be a photographer. And she was like, "Well, maybe you need to find a more stable job like me." And so that made up my mind right there. I'm out of here. My cousin came in her little red car. She came in her little red car. Let's go to the recruiter. Let's go to the recruiter. And so we both went and joined the Air Force. And that's how that journey began. She became an X-ray technician. And I was a hydraulic mechanic. One of very few women back then, because this was 76. So there wasn't a lot of women in that terrific. Matter of fact, when I got to Holloman Air Force Base, the guys had to escort us to the bathroom because they didn't have a ladies' room.
Wow. And that's aircraft hydraulics?
Aircraft hydraulics.
That's tough stuff. That's tough stuff. Good for you. Leo, I know your story, but I want to hear it again.
What made me join was being from South Carolina, Columbia, and I worked at a steel plant when I was younger. And then it was one of these hot summer days. My father and I, we sit on that hot step, and the question was, what you gonna do? And with that, I looked up in the air, and he said, what you gonna do? He said, either you're gonna go work at the plant, you'll go to school, or you can go into service. So I didn't want to go to school because I was tired of school. I wouldn't work. I didn't want to work in this hot plant for the longest. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go in the military. And so that's what I did. So I graduated in 1981. I wanted to be one of those guys, the leatherneck guys. I'm not going to call the name, but you know what I'm talking about. So, because I love that uniform. And then when I was in high school, took the ASVAB test. That's a test to enlist in the military. I wanted to go in the Air Force because there was Air Force bases and Army base in my town. But I took the Air Force test 8 times. 8 times. To the point that I memorized question. So I'm like, after 8 times, wait a minute. There's nothing wrong with me, something wrong with this test. And so I choose the next best day. I went in the Navy because I enjoyed my friends and the people who I graduated with, they went in the Army. So I wanted to be different. So I chose to go in the Navy. That's where I stayed.
Well, I chose to go Army. Maybe the Army chose for me to come. I'm not quite sure which way it really was, but 2 good friends of mine when I was a freshman in college were in the Army ROTC. And they kept talking about how great it was to be in the Army because they were both prior military. They had enlisted and then they came to college. And so I said, well, all right, I'll take a class and do it as an elective just to see what they're talking. What's so great. And I really didn't expect to enjoy it. And I was like, kind of liking this. The uniform's kind of neat. The ability to lead people and to have goals and execute those goals. Because I'd always been very goal-driven. So all of that was interesting. And then the next semester, they started having a group called Counter Guerrillas at Hampton University's ROTC program. And it was considered an elite group within ROTC. And to be a member of that squad, you had to go above and beyond. And there were 5 of us who decided that semester we wanted to be a part of that group. 2 women and 3 men. And I was the only one that made it through. And I'm proud of that even to this day because of the challenges that were put in front of me. The men that were in the counter guerrillas did not want me there. Oh my gosh, they did not. Most of them did not. My friend was, the 2 friends, they were both in the group. They wanted to do it. But the rest of them, they tried everything they could think of. They tried what we know today is sexual harassment.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what it's like when you're the only woman, and but the more they harassed me, the more I was determined. Y'all don't have enough to keep me up. And so I persevered. And I rose through the ranks within ROTC, did really well. Ultimately got a regular Army commission when I was commissioned, and went on active duty. And had the same stature as the West Point graduates for that year. Top 10% in the Army, nationwide. So I showed them. So that's what. And once I did all that, I was determined to serve.
Yeah, my story is not quite as complicated as yours. In fact, I was being encouraged by my mother not to go to the military. Vietnam was on at the time. Obviously, it was that big scare. But on the other hand, I had my father, most of my uncles, a lot of my older cousins, they all served in the services. And so I knew even before I graduated from high school, I was going to go in the military somehow. I was going to enlist right away. And then I had actually a dream of becoming a cop in Philadelphia. Go in, do my time, come back home, and be a police officer. I had an older cousin who had just come back from Vietnam. And he said, "Cuz, you seem to be smarter than average. Why don't you become an officer?" And between that and the fact that my mother wanted me to go to college, so I went to college, enlisted up right away, and then joined up into the ROTC program. After a few months in ROTC, I got a full scholarship. So the Army has done right by me because, first of all, I probably wouldn't have to graduate because of scholarship money. They gave me a scholarship. I joined the toughest parts of the training because I wanted to be challenged. I became a paratrooper while I was still in college. I went to the Army Ranger School while I was still in college. Back then, that was very odd. Not odd, but pretty unique. But I was able to go through it. And because of all that, I also became a regular Army officer because I was in the top 10% of the graduating class nationwide for our Army officers. So
Different years.
But Diane and I were equally yoked in that thing because we had similar ideas. And because of the Army, I was able to see the world, and like all of the world, do some things that I've never done before. Talk about being religious. I grew up in church. I strayed. I ain't gonna die. I wasn't bad, but I wasn't good. But I can tell you, at least 36 times I knew Jesus because I stepped out of an airplane while it was flying. And when you're jumping out of an airplane, there are no atheists under a parachute. But I enjoyed it very much so. And then The best thing about the Army is I got to meet Second Lieutenant Diane Sloan in her first day of the Army. It's history from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any challenges that we have? I mean, we talk about the good stuff, I guess, what made us joy. Were there any things that made us want to get out before we got out?
Yeah. For us, we were in Germany. And let me alter that just a little bit. It's not that I wanted to get out at that point with what I'm about to say, but it was certainly a challenge. We were stationed in Bamberg, West Germany, and when we first moved in country, we stayed in the officers club while we were, trying to find an apartment. Well, about a year or so, a year or two into our tour, the officers club was bombed. There had been a rash of terroristic attacks done by the Waukegan all through Western Germany. And that hit pretty close to home. And fortunately, neither one of us were hurt because we weren't staying there at the time. But to know that the terrorism hit our base and we were supposedly in peacetime, that was certainly a challenge.
Well, twice probably for me. First one, of course, is was a new mommy and just had Shantae, and she was my little reddish sunshine, and I wanted to get out. But my husband beat me out before. He's like, "You're bad. I'm getting out." And I'm like, "You tell wife that you're getting out." So he was getting out, so I re-enlisted, and I'm sitting there crying. And he's like, "Why are you crying?" I'm going, "I don't want to stay in. I want to get out. I want to say you're the mommy person." But I stayed in, and it worked out wonderful for, And the other time, like you, I went to, I had to take a temporary assignment over, it was before I got ready to retire, so it was 19 years, and they were like, "Yeah, you got to do a temporary." So I had to go to Saudi, and and it was after Desert Storm, but still, things were still going on. But I went, and it was a blessing to be over there. But the following year is when they blew up the dorms right across the street from where I live. And I was grateful to the Lord that I went when I did. And I not only was blessed during that time because it was an awesome ministry there, even though Saudi Arabia itself doesn't, recognize Jesus Christ as the Lord, but the ministry on base and even the little cells of McDonnell Douglas, who was having Bible studies just like in old days from house to house. And that was, to go to a house and see people from all nations. I mean, just praising what was awesome. Yeah, it was scary to think you could be somewhere. Just thank the Lord that you made it home, because a lot of people did. So I'm grateful to do 20. Say thank you, Father.
Because I did 22 years total. I did 10 years active, 12 years reserve. And what made me actually get out of active duty was like, I didn't want to play the game. And it was like, okay, well, I want to be me. I didn't want to play in politics. I was a leader, supervisor, and I believe in taking care of my men first, instead of my men taking care of me, where that I use them as a stepping stone to make rank. And I refuse to play the game. even to the point where I had a senior officer told me, he said, well, if you get out after 10 years, what are you going to do? You're not going to be able to find a job. I said, okay. You see. I see, because see, before I went in the military, I believe in God. And then being on the ship, just like what Brother Lou said, you jumped out of the plane, there's no aphids on parachute. But you on a ship, the thing is about it, after the ship sails off, you see land. So I worked in the engine room, which is called the snipe. You work out in the hold, which is called the engine room. And when you take off, you see land, 24 hours, we're in the ocean. That's it. Ocean and other ships. So you gonna stay prayed up. And it's like we have the Bible study. We also have Sunday service on the ship. But as for when I decided I want to get out, I made that decision, and that I wasn't worried about what was going to happen the next day. I did my 10, and so then when I got out, then that's when I went in the reserve. My first time in the reserve was, I said, okay, since I wasn't going to the Air Force out of high school, I took the test 8 times, I'm gonna get this shot with reserve time. So I was blessed to be in reserve for 3 years. So you know what I'm saying? So, but all in all, I had a good time. And like I say, when I decided I wanted to get out, I stepped out on faith, all, my parents and everything. And we talked about it. My mom and parents said, that's what you want to do. She would always say, the Lord's going to make a way. And that's what happened. That's how I ended up being deserving.
Yeah.
91.
Okay. There were times that I had jobs and assignments that I didn't like, but one thing I always knew about them is just stick around long enough, it'll change. No matter how much you like something, it'll change. No matter how much you dislike something, it'll change. So I had that kind of mindset, and I wasn't worried about it. Including worked for a couple of officers who, in my mind, were not the epitome of great leadership. But the real kicker for me was when Diane and I were stationed together in Germany, and we were enjoying things, and I was on a particular career, and so was she. And then the Army was going to separate us. We're going to send her to West Point to be an instructor for the first female class at West Point. Of course, she had a advanced degree and was a great officer and had her be an instructor. I thought I'd go there, run a TV station or something in communications. They said, no, you're going to this place called Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Yeah, that's what we said. Yeah. And Fort Leavenworth, I know everybody knows Fort Leavenworth, that's the prison, but I wasn't going to the prison. There was a special school there that was starting up there that I was going to be one of the first members of that class, so it was what we call a ticket punch to go there, but I didn't want to go because I was going to be separated from Diane. She didn't want to go. We both tried to get stationed together, and it just did not work out. So that's when we both left active duty so we could stay together. And it was hard for us to get in the military, so to give up all that we earned overnight, it was kind of difficult, but I don't regret it, not 1 minute, because other things happened to me and other things were wonderful. Eventually, it led us to come here to WCC because of job opportunities. I had another choice to do it with. And then I had a second career. I not only retired from the military, but I became a Department of the Army civilian and got another retirement. So what they call double dipper. And I do not regret any of it. There's some things I do not like whatsoever. Didn't like whatsoever, but a lot of things. And something just flashed in my head, talking about faith. Remember, we didn't go to chapel that often. Okay. Until we met this Catholic priest in Germany. And I remember we used to go to Mass Not because we wanted to become Catholics, per se, but because this priest was just so cool. And we enjoyed the delivery that he gave. He didn't give a typical Catholic service, per se, it wasn't in Latin. But that's what made me really step up and think like, hey, this church thing is a fun thing. It's not just all work and pain and suffering. And that opened our eyes. And then when we left active duty and we moved back to Pennsylvania, and we walked into St. Paul Baptist Church, that was a kick. And that was the gift for us. And that became roundabout from the Army.
Yeah, I'm retired from the military.
Yeah.
I ain't retired from life yet. I ain't retired.
Well, I don't believe in retiring. Because, I know growing up, when I heard people say they were going to retire, my perception was that they would, in fact, retire from life and just be sitting in a rocking chair on a porch somewhere, eating bonbon.
Especially with retirement from the military, you'd be like, everybody retired from the military is done. You'd be like,
Don't want to do that. So
my favorite one was our commander. He was in the safety office. He was retiring, and the new commander came in. So both of them were there. So the old commander went and just stayed in the museum in an office while the new commander took over his office. And the guy I was working with answered the phone one day. He said, "Yep, Colonel McCullough is retired, and he's over in the museum." And he hung up the phone, and I said, "Do you realize what you just said?" He said, "Yeah, Colonel McCullough is retired, and he's, oh."
He's a museum piece, part of the tour.
He's like, "Oh, that's not what I meant."
Well, I didn't stay long enough to retire from the military. However, since then I've retired from laboratories. And, but I call it an active retirement because I participate in a number of different organizations and philanthropic stuff. And I'm still very, very proud to have served. And even though it wasn't, for 20 years, like y'all.
Double retiree. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you. Yes, please.
But one thing with the military, being in uniform service and in civil service, the commonality was service. That I kept doing things for service. And that's kind of stuck with me. And right now, I'm still doing service, not being paid. But, a member of, we're both members of various clubs and organizations. And, I was in a fundraising, I'm still in a fundraising organization that makes scholarships for kids. And we just do things, and it's all part of service. So now, my service is to the church and community service. And sometimes I feel like, when am I going to really retire?
You're not.
And then I get a phone call, "Hey, can you come help out with?" So
I don't see us.
I don't see us really retiring unless we physically can't do what the Lord has put onto us. And you know what? As long as the Lord gives me the breath, strength, and ability to serve, I gotta serve. I gotta serve.
My scripture was when I was in, was the race is not given to the swift, neither to the strong, but to him over and endures to the end.
All right.
And we keep enduring. Even after I retire, I am still striving to endure everything that God puts in my path and to fulfill for his glory. So,
But it's like everybody else said, retired is not a part of my menu, you know. And with that being said, I'm not in the military, worked in civil service, worked in the school system, working at the church. I actually served too, and also my thing is though is look out for veterans, okay? Make sure that veterans and their families get your benefits, you know, because you're entitled to it, you earned it, you know. It's, you know, let's get rid of the pride thing, you know. Get your benefits. Not only will it help you, it will help your family. If you got young family members. It also help your spouse. And then when it comes down to the benefits that you don't know that you are entitled to, that's what I do. I tell veterans, hey, you need to get your benefits. Mm-hmm. It's not because somebody's giving something to you. You earned it. Yes. And especially when you raise your right hand. And I tell every veteran, you're not the same as you was when you went into boot camp and when you got out. You're not the same person.
Right.
You're not the same person. And you know, and it's like this. The government says he was going to take care of us. You know, back in the day, we called him Uncle Sam. They call him Uncle Sugar now. You know, he's going to take care of us regardless. He's going to take care of our families. Step up to the plate, bat 100. Get your benefits, take care of your family. I tell veterans that all the time. Male or female, get your benefits that you entitled to, earn it.